So I'm meeting you all. Okay. Okay. So like actually today, like we will start like a new concept. Like let's say, see, like in real-time scenarios, like when you are passing the data, like when we are, uh, just give me 1 second. One second. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Uh, just 1 second. Hello. Yeah. Can you call me after an hour, please? Yeah. Sorry about that. So let's continue. Okay. Yeah. So in the real-time scenarios, like what we have to do is like when you are testing some application, hopefully you guys can hear me. Are you guys able to hear me and see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's continue. Sorry. Okay. So like in real time scenarios, like what will happen is like, let's say when you are testing some application, let's say you are testing the flights application. So there might be scenarios where like you need to pass multiple sets of data in the sense, see, to purchase a ticket, like we need some information, like from where you want to buy a ticket, from location to location, and as well as like, let's say, uh, different options, like on what date that you want to, what are the information. So all those information like we need to provide. So what we need to do, like to pass that information in the script itself, like we'll hard code it, like okay, this is the flight name, or this is the from location, from you want to purchase it from Denver to some other locations. Okay, so we will pass a lot of data in our scripts. So that data, instead of writing in the script, like what we can do is, instead of having it in the code directly, we can store that data in a separate file. For example, a text file or an Excel file or some other file, okay, or a database. So from that, like we'll pass as an input, and that data will be used during the testing. Like when you are actually performing in the execution, like you have to execute the code in there, like you need to enter the data from the script in that location. So for that reason, like what we need to do is, from our scripts, like using Java, we might need to talk to those applications and read the data. For example, let's say if you have the data in a text file, so we might need to open a text file and read the data that is present in the text file. Okay. In the same way, let's say if it is in an Excel file, like we might need to open that Excel and read the data from the Excel file and then use it in our scripts. So for that reason, like we need to know some like Java code using which you can open the text file or Excel file, or like whichever the file it is, like we need to open that and read the data. Not only reading the data, we might also need to write the data back into those files. Like for example, let's say you want to write the results back. So instead of console, like now till now what we were doing, like we were using the system.out.println and we were storing that data in the console. But once you close and reopen the Eclipse, like you cannot see the result. And if you have lots of results that you want to store, like we need to store at some location. So for that reason, like we might need to store the data back into a Excel file or a text file or some other location. So we need to read the data as well as we might need to write the data into those files. So that like we'll do it with the help of the Java. So with the help of Java, we'll open the file, read the contents or write the contents, and we can close that file. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. See, I'll create a new class. Let's say I can say right click on the package and say, or instead of this package, I'll create one more package so that like it will be, everything will be in separate. See, new package. So on the source, like I right clicked and selected the new and package. So I'll say that, let's say some name com.test. Let's say what we can give is read write from external files. Okay, so com.read. Just like a name of the package, com.test. Read write from external files, so that like all my code will be in that folder. Okay, it's kind of a folder where we are storing all our files. So again, on right click on this, say new and class. So we'll create a new class, and in here, see, like we need to give some name to it. Let's say I'll give it as read text file. Okay, read text file. And see, let's select public static void main, like because we want to get a main method. We want to have a main method where we want to write the code. So click on finish. See, it created the main method as well as class for us. See, first thing is we want to read a text file. Like that means like we want to read the contents of a text file. So what we can do, like we can go and store that file at some location. Like we can create a new file at some location in our system, either C drive, D drive, or your wherever the location you want to store all your files, like you can store it there. Or you can also store it in this location itself. So see, in this folder, like I'll right click new and say file. So I can either create it here, so it will store it at some location where your workspace is, or I can go directly to some location in your machine. See, for example, let's say see, I'll create a folder here and I'll say that to be some name to be deleted, and in here like I'll create some file, like let's say text file, and I'll give it as, let's say, test data as the name of that file. And in that I'll give some information. Let's say this is Selenium test automation tool from or for performing functional testing. Some information. Okay, and I'm closing it. So I created a file, entered some data into it, and I'm closed it. So now first thing is we want to open that file. So if you want to open that file, like we need to provide the path to it. Like we need to know the location where that file is. So I'll create a variable, see string, let's say file path equal to, see, I'll copy the path. Okay, to be deleted / testdata.txt. See, / testdata.txt. It's a text file. Okay, and semicolon to end it. Okay, but see, I still see a error here. So if you hover over it, see, it says invalid escape sequence. So it says it doesn't understand what this / is. So in Java, like when you are writing the path, we cannot just give directly like this. So instead of one /, like when you give a /, it will think that it's a escape sequence and it does not understand what it is. So instead what we need to do is we need to give double backslash, like you need to provide 2 backslashes. See, 2, 3, like for wherever you have a backslash, just give 2 backslashes like this. See, now the error is gone. Okay, so we need to give the path like this of the file. So once you give the file, like first thing what we need to do is like we need to create an object of file reader. Okay, because see, like the text file is part, it's not part of this Eclipse folder or Eclipse tool. It's a different file. So Eclipse does not understand what that file is or what is there in that file. So in order for Eclipse to understand, what we need to do is we need to create an object, and that object will understand what is there in that text file. Okay, so it can talk to the text file and it can connect to text file and read the data from it. So for that, see, we'll create a object file reader, let's say something ifile equal to new file reader of, we need to provide the path, see, file path and semicolon. Okay, so it gives me an error on the file reader. So because we need to get some packages, like you need to get some jar files package, see, and when I hover over it, see, it's giving me import file reader. So just select that and see, my error is gone. Even I have an error here, see, and now it says, see, unhandled exception type file not found exception. Okay, so what this says is, this line of code says is, see, we are giving a path, okay, but at that path the file may be present or may not be present. Okay, so there might be an exception. In case if the file is not present, what will happen, like when you're trying to read it from that location and that file is not available, like it will throw an error. So in the last class we saw, like we cannot directly do it like that. Okay, so instead, like what we need to do, like in case if we think that something is going to give an exception, like what we are going to do is we need to handle it. Okay, and with the help of try and catch block. So what we can do is we can insert a try and catch block here. So I can just go here and say, see, try and see, try catch block, and I can have this in the try block like this. Okay, see, now the error is gone, because in case if that error comes, we are catching it. So that's why we need to have a try and catch block. Okay, in case if you don't have, it will throw an error like this. See, so let me comment this again. And not only this, see, either we can do try and catch block, or in Java, like you also have something called as throws. See, when I hover over it, see, it says unhandled exception file not found, and it says add throws declaration. So what it says is you can also use this to fix this issue. And what it does is, see, when I click on this one, see, it adds throws file not found exception. Okay, so even so, if you do this, like if you say that throws file not found exception, so with this what will happen is you are telling to like Java that, okay, if the file is not found, you can throw this exception. Okay, so we can also do this. Either you can also have try and catch block, or you can also do this. So in case if you have try and catch, you are handling that exception. Okay, whereas this one throws by default, like you are not handling it, like Java will take care of it. In case if that exception comes, Java will handle it and it will stop the script. Okay, so for that reason, either you can do this or that, try catch block or throws exception. Okay, so now, so file reader has been created, and now what we need to do is, like, we need to create one more object called buffered reader. See, buffered reader, let's say something, some name to it, buf something, buffer reader equal to new buffered reader of, okay, and we need to give this I file, whatever the file that you create. Okay, again you have an error here. See, if you hover over it, it will ask you to import buffered reader. Okay, so for everything, like we have to import something or the other. Like if you are using the inbuilt functionalities of like Java, we have to import those specific class files. See, like now buffer reader equal to new buffer reader of I file. Okay, and then see now let's say something like string uh, line equal to this buffer reader. Okay, so that means like this buffer reader has the handle for that file, and using that handle we can read whatever that is there in that file. So see buffer reader dot, you have read line. Okay, and see semicolon, and again see it gives me error. Let's see what the error is. See again, like it's a unhandled exception. It says IO exception. Okay, so file not found exception is one thing. IO exception is in case there is a file but there is no data in it. Okay, then also it throws an error. So I can say see add throws declaration. So instead of giving the file not found, I can just directly give this IO exception. So which will handle everything, like yeah, the file not found as well as even this one also. So we can directly give IO exception. Okay, and so now we got that string. So whatever that is there in that line, see it will be stored into this string. So let's save this. See or just display that. See system.out.println. Okay, and I'll just give this line. I'll just display this whatever that is there in the line variable like this. Okay, and once your task is completed, like whenever we create an object, like once our task is completed or whenever we read a file, open a file, once our task is completed, like we need to close that file. See now I'll close that buffer reader dot close. See which will close that file. Okay, so we are giving the path of it, then we are creating a file reader, then buffer reader object, and then we are using the buffer reader object, we are reading that line of code or whatever the content of that file. Okay, see let's run this and see what happens. Okay, see we got this is selenium. Okay, so what it did, it only read the first line, but like you have a lot of data in it. Okay, in the file there is not only one line. So with the read line, it will read the first line, and it will, like we are not reading the second line. So with the read line, it will only read the first line. But let's say if you have some other data also, we have to loop through and then read it. By default, we can only read one line. So once you read the first line, then we need to go to the second line and read it, then third line, then fourth line, like that. Okay, so for that, like what we can do is we can use some loop here. So either we can use a for loop, or like in these kinds of scenarios, it's better to use a while loop. See, while control space. Okay, so we can have a while loop here. Okay, see, while with a iterator we can use, or enumeration. Okay, or while loop with a condition. Let's use with a condition. Okay, see, while condition. So what our condition is, see, line equal to, we already have a string, so see I'll comment this line of code. Okay, so string line, then line equal to buffer reader dot read line. Okay, so we are reading that line of code, and not only this, like once you read, like we have to loop through. So buffer reader dot read line, so it's giving an error. Okay, so line equal to this, and we have to check, see, like we have to loop through, we have to start from the first and then go to the end of it. Okay, and so for that reason, see, line then not equal to null, like this. Okay, see, first what we are trying to do is we are trying to get the whatever that is there in the line. Okay, and we are saying that okay, loop through until this is not null. Okay, so if it is not null, then go inside. If it is null, then come out of the loop. So we are trying to verify that because we want to go from first to the end of the file. So end of the file means when you read it and if it is empty, then that means it's blank or we have reached the end of the file. So that we can check it like this. See, line equal to buffer reader dot read line of, and that is not equal to null. So that means if it is blank, then it will come out of the loop. And then I'll display it here. See, system.out.println. Okay, and I can just say line. See, like this, and save it. And I'll comment this one also because we don't need it. Okay, see, now let me run this and see. See, now I'm able to get all the three, like this is Selenium test automation tool for performing functional testing. Okay, like this, like you can look through that file and we can read the data from it. So this is how, and in here, like see, we are storing into we are not storing anywhere, we are just displaying it there. Instead, we can again create any of the collections object, like a buffer, like whatever the collections object that we have learned, like you can create any of them, like array list, linked list, or whichever the ones, hash map, hash set, and you can store this data into those collection objects. Okay, but here, like all we are doing is we are just reading it and displaying it. Instead, we can create there and store that value, or we can go into the application and do some task also. Like let's say if you have username and password here, we can go to the application and use this username to log into the application or to purchase the ticket or something like that. Okay, so this is how we can read the data from the file. And not only read, like we can also write it to the text file. Okay, so sometimes we might need to read it, as well as sometimes we might need to also write the data into a text file. Okay, so this is how we are reading it. So in the same way we can also write it. See, let me create a new class and I'll say, see, write text file, and I'll have a main method. So I'll select it, see, like this, and again. So for now, so like when we are reading it, we need to create a file reader, and in case if you want to write it, we need to create a file writer. See, object of file writer, let's say fw equal to new file writer of, see, path. Like you need to provide the path because we want to create a file at some location, so we need to provide a path. So see, I'll select this file folder. So in the codes, this slash, let's say selly.txt, okay, and give the double backslashes for the path. See, like this. Okay, and again, like file writer, see, we need to get the class. So import file writer.java. And in the same way here, see, it says unhandled exception. Like we need to handle the exception for this. So what can be the exception is, let's say in case if you are giving a path, let's say if the folders are not present, okay, it cannot create the folder, it'll only create the path. But in case if you are giving a big path and you don't even have that location available, so it might throw an error. So that's what it says, that okay, you need to handle this exception. And I can say, see, throws declaration, add throws declaration, click on this, see, gives you the IO exception. Just select that. So now the error is gone. Okay, so now we created the file writer, then again buffer writer. So how we have the buffer reader, we need to have buffer writer, let's say bw equal to new buffered writer of of this FW, whichever that we created. Okay, again it's asking you to get the buffer writer class. See, import buffer writer like this. Okay, so now using that BW, which is a buffer writer object instance, like we can write some text into it. Okay, see, BF or BW dot write, and we can give whatever the text that we want to write here. So let's say I want to write this is from Java, something like this. So I want to just write this is from Java and I want to close it. Once you write, we need to close that file. See, so instead of, if you want to read, we need to give a file reader and the buffer reader. Like we need to create a file reader and the buffer reader. If you want to write, we have to create a object of file writer and the buffer writer. Okay, and see, now if I run it, see, if you see in this location there is no file called celi.txt. So after execution, it will create a new file and write the data into it. See, execution has been completed. See, celi.txt. When you open it, see, this is from Java. Okay, like this. Let's say if you want to have more lines, so all we need to do is just copy this, see, and paste it like this. And instead of Java, let's say something, this is from automation, or this is from Cucumber, something. Save it and see, if I run this again, see, it's very quick, like it doesn't even blink it, like, but it executes it. See, if you go back to the file, see, this is from Java, this is from automation, this is from Cucumber. Okay, so what's happening, like everything it's writing, appending it to whatever the code text that is present. So instead, let's say if you want to have everything in a new line, see, what we can do is here we can give a /n. So what it does is, whenever it sees a /n, it will write it in a new line. See, /n like this. So if I run it, go back to the file. Oh, why did /n? Somehow it's not giving, but like /n is the new line character. Okay, it needs to go to the next line, but somehow it's not going. So let me do something else also. See, so instead of writing one line by line, like what I'll do is I'll try to write a loop and loop through and write something. See, like I'll use a for loop, then iterate over a array. Okay, see, for int I equal to 0, I less than, let's say, 10, I plus plus. Okay, and now I'll use this, see, bw dot write here. So this is from Java, and I'll say plus I, so that it will display numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also I'll try to provide the new line character here and see new line. Oh, sorry, actually new line is not this, it's like bw dot new line. Yeah, sorry, not /n. Like we can also use this bw dot new line to create the line. See, let me run this now and see. Okay, I'll go to the file, open it. See, this is from Java 0, this is from Java 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. See, dot new line, like, sorry, bf dot, or whatever the buffered object that you create, buffer writer dot new line, which will write a new line into it, or will take you to the new line in the notepad or the text file. See, like this you can write the data into it. Okay, and so this is how, with the help of the file reader and the file writer, like buffer reader and the buffer writer, we can open a text file and write data into it. Okay, so and not only this, see, there is something also called as properties. So if it is a plain text like this, like it can read it and it can write it. But sometimes like what we have to do is we might need to give some data in the form of properties into a text file. Like for example, let's say what you call, let's say URL. Like we might want to have some specific URLs based on a region. Okay, see what I'll do is I'll create one file here and we'll try to read it from there. See, in the source I'll create a file, new file. Either I can create it here or I can create again in my location also. Okay, so yeah, let's do it in the location itself. See, I'll create a new file, or I'll open a notepad. See, okay, and here I'll give some details, some values. So for example, let's say name equal to something tester, like then SSN equal to 123456, or let's say URL equal to www.google.com. okay, then something fly from, or let's say email equal to tester at something test.com, password equal to, or pw equal to, let's say tester123. okay, see, let's say we have some information that we want to use it. Okay, and what we can do is we can store the values like this, and from our script we can read this data, okay, and use it in our scripts. Like let's say if you want to have a URL, like if you want to pass a URL, username, password, or whatever the data it is, we can create it like this and we can use it. Okay, so if you are reading it using our regular method, so what will happen, it will give you everything, like name equal to tester, SSN equal to 123456, which we just saw, like how it was reading it from these files. It was just directly reading it and giving you whatever that is there. But with the properties, like you can treat these as a properties, and you can read it as a, this is the property and property value. This is a one property and this is one like value of that property. We can also treat like that and call it also. Okay, so let's save this file as, let's say I'll go to that location. Where is it? Satish, then Selenium, and I'll go to the to be deleted. Okay, so here I'll give it as, let's say input data, and dot, you have to give it as properties. See, properties. Okay, so if you want to treat it as a properties file, we need to give the extension as dot properties, and instead of dot txt, just use all files. Okay, so if you have properties, then only it will treat it as a property file. Otherwise, it will not treat it as a property file. So let's save it. Okay, see, input dot properties. Either you can create it like this, or in case if you want to create it in the file itself, let's say in our folder in the Eclipse itself. See, right click, new, see, file, and here you need to give, let's say input data dot properties, and then say finish. See, which will create a file here, and then paste those values. So we can also create it like this. Either we can create it in this location, or you can create wherever the location that you want to. Okay, so now we created the file. So next is we need to create the code to read the data from it. Okay, so I'll create a new class, and let's say I'll give it as reading properties, and we need to have a main method. See, click finish. Okay, so we got our class and the method. So let's start writing the code. So first thing that we need to do is we need to get the path. See, string, let's say file path equal to, see, we can select this file, right click, and say properties. See, which will give you the path of it. So I can select this path. Okay, so all we need to do is go to the file, just right click and say properties, which will give you the properties of that file. So we can copy this, see location. Okay, copy that and provide it here. See, again it will give me an error. Okay, so because we need to give the two slashes, backslash, backslash, like this. Like this. Okay, so we provided the path, and after this, see, we need to create some class object properties. See, let's say props equal to new properties. Okay, again it's asking you to download some classes or package. See, import properties like this. Okay, and now next what we need to do is, again we want to read it from that file. Okay, so for that, like, we need to say file input stream fs equal to new file input stream. Okay, and provide the path, file path. Okay, again see, we need to get the class and see add throws declaration. Okay, so you can say file not found exception, or you can also give IO exception, which will give everything, input output exception. So I'll select this IO exception. Okay, so file input stream fs equal to this, and fs dot load, sorry, props dot load. This is the object dot load, and we need to give this fs, whichever the file stream object is, like this. So what it's doing is, it is reading that file and loading into the properties object. And now if you want to get any property, see what we can do is, let's say first name, see string something, let's say you have first name, SSN, last name, a lot of things are there, right? So in case if string name equal to, so we are creating an object called string and we want to store that value in there. So see props dot get property, and here we need to give what property that you want to get. See, let's say if I come here, so it's name, then just give that name in there, see, like this. And if I want to display system.out.println, see, I can give name is plus name, like this. Okay, so if I'm saying get the name property, and name property has a value tester, so it will give me tester. See, let's run it. See, name is tester. So in the same way, if you want to get the other things, like let's say see system.out.println, so instead of directly, like instead of storing it into a variable and using it, I can directly print it also. See, let's say SSN is plus the property name SSN, capital uppercase SSN, like this. Oh, sorry, not SSN, properties, props.get, props.get property SSN, like this. See, now the error is gone. Okay, in the same way, if you want to forget for the other things also, see, then URL. So all we need to change is this URL, like this. And in case if you want to get the email, see, Okay. And email is plus. Okay, I'll copy this to end. Email. Okay, see if I run this, I'll get all my properties. See, name is tester, SSN is 123456, URL is this, email is this. Okay, so either you can display it like this, or you can store it into a variable, and again you can use it in your script. Okay, so like URL, like one-time things which generally don't change much, like will be generally store that in the property file, like URL in case username and password to log into the application, or those kinds of things which don't change at all. Okay, only which change very rarely. For example, let's say you have created all your scripts and you want to run them on one of the region, like dev region. Okay, so we'll add dev into it, like we'll give the path, we can go to this path and just give dev region, or if it is some other region, let's say sit, we will give sit, or if it is UAT region, we'll give UAT, or a production, we'll give production URL. So it's easy for us to pass the data to our scripts, because everything, all the values will be at one location. We can go to that location and we can update the values there, rather than going to code and checking where we want to update it. So when we see the WebDriver, at that time I'll try to use all these properties and we can pass it from here. Okay. So this is how, like, we can create a properties file and read it and use it in our script with the help of this properties class, like properties object, create a properties object and use it there. Okay. So any other questions, or is it clear? Let me unmute. I unmuted you all. So any questions? Work with Excel. Okay, Excel again, like we have a different code, like we'll see that. Okay, let me mute, something is resounding. So again, like how we have the code for the text file, in the same way, like we have code for Excel, like which we'll see. I thought of completing it today itself, but like now already like we are 50 minutes, so and to do the Excel, like it will take another hour or so. So I think it's better to do it in the next class. And it's again a different lines of code that we have to write it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so just try it, like this is very important. Okay, so and try to practice it for sure. Okay, and one more question is like, what does buffer reader do? So basically what this buffer reader does is, see, using the file reader object, we are just creating a reader like file object, and to that file object, like we need to store whatever the data that is there in that file, we need to store it into a buffer, and like it's a buffer reader object, so it actually holds the contents of that file. Okay, so then from that reader, like you can write, like actually take that out and write it in or use it in your code. Okay, so basically it's kind of a buffer thing where all the data from the file comes in and stores there, and from there you can read it in our scripts. Okay, so we don't need to worry about like what it is or how to do it. All we need to do is, okay, like if you have a requirement in your project, okay, like you need to read a data from it, all we'll do is just write these lines of code. Okay, so we can just by heart it and know, okay, file to read a data, like you have to say file reader, and we need to create a buffer reader and read it. So if you practice couple of times, it will be easy for you. Okay, so reader, writer, as well as even this property is also very important. Okay, because in real-time scenarios we'll be using lot of values that we'll be passing into our script. Okay, so there will be a lot of values or data that we'll be passing into the script. Okay, so those data will store it in this properties file like this and read it using the properties object. Okay, so try to practice, and in case if you have any questions, let me know. And like next week we'll try to like wrap up the Excel, and also there are some more inbuilt methods that we need to see from the Java. Like we'll see that, and then we'll start the WebDriver. Okay, so let's stop it for today, and like we'll continue on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Okay.